All right, so let's get started again. So once now we have seen the algebra behind the IS curve and the algebra behind the LM curve. So we can put things together and arrive at general equilibrium. So how do we do that? We always have to keep well alive in our mind the connection between the algebra we are writing on the board and the graphs. Okay, so how do we do the general equilibrium? Okay, so we have the IS equation. That's R equal alpha IS minus beta IS y. Now, if we consider the full employment line, which is equal to y bar. And how do we do that? By plugging y bar into the IS equation. Okay? Then we are able to pin down a particular interest rate R. Okay? That's the general equilibrium interest rate, the interest rate in general equilibrium. So that's the first step. Now we need, as a final step, the LM curve. So we need to pin down what? The price level. Remember I told you that the position of the LM curve on the graph is determined by the price level, with everything else constant. So we need to pin down the price level that will make the LM curve pass through this point. Okay? This will be the LM curve at that particular price level, the general equilibrium. So how do we do that? We go back to this equation. We go back to this main equality between money supply and money demand. And we can replace R with the R coming from our previous exercise, and then solve for P. And that P is the P that makes the LM curve go through that point. Okay, so we replace this R in that equation with the right-hand side of the IS curve. You see it's here. That's our R. And then solve for P. And that's the final step in the general equilibrium. Okay? That's the price level, that particular price level that makes, with everything else the same, that makes the LM curve go through this point. Because otherwise, if the price level is different, the LM curve could be here, could be here, could be anywhere. The one that ensures that the LM curve goes through here, it's that price level there. And how do we know? We know because it's for this particular interest rate. When y is equal to y bar, interest rate must be equal to that value. Okay? So, now we are ready to move on to the supply side. Okay, so staying a little bit longer with the algebra. So we have two different time horizons here. One is the short run, and the other is the long run. So let's first talk about the short run. What we have been assuming up to now is that in the short run, the price level does not change. It's fixed. Okay? So we want to express that in an equation. How could we represent a fixed price level with an equation? In a graph where you have, price level on the vertical axis and output on the horizontal axis. What would the equation look like? P must be equal to a constant value say P bar. That's our equation for the short run aggregate supply curve. This is some P bar here, and this is a horizontal line. It's a value regardless of output. It's always that P bar. That means price level is fixed at P bar. Okay? On the other hand, if we look at the long run, so that means the longer time horizon, then we saw that the economy will tend to go back to the full employment level of output, because firms will not be happy with producing higher than full employment level of output or lower than that. And they will want to get back there by changing prices. Right? So the price level will adjust so that the economy goes back to full employment level of output. So in the long run, the economy will be at the full employment level of output. So what is the equation that expresses that? What is the equation behind this vertical line? If the equation for the horizontal line was P equal P bar, the equation for the vertical line will be Y equal to Y bar. Okay? That means that whatever level of prices, Y is always Y bar. That's the vertical line. So that is our long run aggregate supply. In the short run, we have a flat line. In the long run, we have a vertical line. Okay. Now, if we put together with the demand side, we have aggregate demand we derived last time. It's a downward sloping line. Why is it downward sloping? Yeah, but why is that inverse relation there? Because? Why, when prices go up, output must come down to leave both the goods market and the financial markets in equilibrium? Why? When prices go up, you can't hear. What is changing when the price goes up? Money supply. Money supply goes down, which leads to excess demand for money in the monetary market. And therefore, it increases the interest rate, which leads to higher interest rate leads to lower investment and lower output. Okay, so the reason why this is downward sloping is because the higher prices lead to lower money supply, excess demand for money, higher interest rate, lower investment, lower output. Okay? So, now we know what are the forces that will move the economy back to full employment and back to general equilibrium. So, if in the short run output is above full employment, then adjustment will come through changes in price level. So if this is the case, what is the change in price level? Which way you will see? Up or down? if output is above full employment, they are producing more than they would like. Prices will
Decrease.
Who says increase? Hands up. Nobody? Who says decrease? Okay. One person said increase, I think. And argue for it.
I'm not sure.
But, if you said increase, you must have an argument in mind. What is it?
No, but I was thinking of the Keynesian clause where the plan expenditure and the actual expenditure are.
Okay, let me ask somebody who said decrease to argue for this.
So it will decrease because we're producing more than it is needed. So therefore we'll have more inventory and more to get rid of it. So we'll reduce the price so that people buy more products. So therefore,
If we are producing more than we would like, we don't mind increasing prices so that people want to buy less of our stuff, right?
but sir, we are
If you have running a restaurant, right, and it's full, it's always full and you have a queue of people outside, what do? You decrease the prices so that even more people come and join the queue? You increase the prices, right? So they will increase, okay?
but
Prices will What happened?
I have to be somewhere else.
Okay. So prices will rise.
I didn't get this, but we're already producing more than.
Yeah. So we want to reduce our production. How do we do that? What is a typical tool for reducing supply? For reducing demand. That's what we need. To reduce our supply, we need to reduce demand. What is a typical tool? Increase the price. Right? So prices will go up. If output is below, it's weak. So we want to encourage people to come to us. What do? We'll reduce the prices. Okay? Think about the restaurant. It's a good example. If it's full, and there is a queue, you want to increase the prices. If it's empty and you want to attract people, you reduce the prices. Okay? And if it's right there, then you don't do anything with the prices. You are fine. Okay? So this table is very important because we will be all the time thinking about, because the change in prices then will affect the shifts of the Allen curve and so on. So if you get this wrong, then you shift the Allen curve the wrong way, and then everything is screwed, in your analysis. Okay? So this table is very important. So let's consider now a shift due to IS shock. Okay, so first we have, the two graphs, the YR graph and the YP graph. Here we have IS curve, and we have Allen curve, which corresponds to a given price level, say P1. So P1 will give us a given Allen curve. In this graph, we have our aggregate demand, and we'll have short-run aggregate supply corresponding to P1. Okay? Now we have the shock. So IS curve shifts to the left. That's the shock. So output falls below full employment. Okay? So how does the adjustment occur? If output is below, the restaurant is empty. So what happens? Prices will go down. So what will you see here and what will you see here? Here, if prices go down, real money supply increases. And LM will shift to the right. Okay? So LM will start shifting this way. Here, what will happen to this line? It will simply start dropping down because prices are going down. Okay, so this is what we see. The green line is the shift of the both lines until we reach the new price level where we are back to full employment level of output. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is a shock to money supply. We start with M1. I don't have the graph with all the transitions because that was meant to be done by you now. So we start with M1. So what is the effect of an increase in money supply from M1 to M2? Higher.
That's right.
LM shifts to the right. Here. Any change here?
So no.
He says no. Everybody agree with that? Yes or no? Agree. So if you agree, LM has shifted. So you are here. Output is higher, but the price level is still the same. So when you go here, output is higher, the price level is still the same. So what does that tell you? AD will shift. You move to a new AD curve. To the right, output will be higher, but the price level is still the same. So you are on a new, different AD curve. So the AD curve shifts, right? Maybe in the analysis before I did not put enough emphasis on the fact that the AD curve was also shifted here. I forgot, you see? When the IS curve shifts, the AD curve shifted to the left. And that's why we are below full employment output. Here, with the change in the money supply, LM curve shifts, and therefore the AD curve also shifts to the right. So now we are with output which is higher than Y bar. So what happens? Prices will have to increase. The restaurant is full. Prices will go up. So what happens?
Output goes back to the equilibrium amount. When the prices rise, so the output goes back to the amount.
But why? What is the process of adjustment? When-
Short-term equities is rising.
Yeah, the short run. So prices go up. This line will move up.
Yeah.
What happens here?
The LM curve goes
It
back.
had shifted here,
Yeah.
and now
It's going to go back
it will go back. Why?
because the prices are increasing.
So the real money supply falls. So it will go back to exactly to where it came from, to the original position. Okay? And so we will end up again with, here we will be on a different AD curve, but at the same level of Y bar and higher level of prices. And here we will be at exactly the same point we started from. Okay? So this makes it easy now to talk about monetary neutrality because it's exactly the same thing that I'm going to show you. So, here start from general equilibrium, point E. And then we consider an increase in money supply by 10%, right? So that will, as we just said, shift the AD curve to the right. So we go to F in the short run. In the short run, we are at F. In F, output is higher, so prices will increase. So we move back all the way to H. So when everything is said and done, in the long run, we go from E to H, so we have an increase in prices, but we have no change in output. Not only that, we have seen in the previous graph that we have also no change in interest rate when everything is said and done. So there is no effect on the real side of the economy. The only change you will have is a change on prices. So for this reason, it is frequently said that money is neutral in the long run. It actually depends on the speed of adjustment of prices. There is a school of thought in economic theory which claims that the price adjustment occurs very quickly, immediately almost. That's the classical school of thought, we will see. And if that was the case, then we would hardly spend any time here. We would go straight from E to H. So there would be no real effect on the economy. It would be useless to try and increase output through monetary policy, because the economy would just see an increase in prices. If, however, there is a rigidity in the reaction of prices to go up, then there is room for the economy to move to F, spend some time there, where the economy is producing at a higher level, and then just over time to go back to H. Yes, your question?
Can you please explain it from the start once again?
Okay. So, what do we mean by monetary neutrality? When we increase money supply, then that causes a shift in the AD curve. So the new equilibrium for given level of prices, it's with a higher level of full employment output. When that happens, then what happens? We saw from the table, there is a tendency for prices to go up. And therefore, we move back to point H. So at the end, once this adjustment is completed, there is no effect on output. There is also no effect on the interest rate, because we go back here, same interest rate. So there is no real interest rate. So there is no effect on the real side of the economy. And so for this reason, the economy in the long run is said to be neutral. Neutral in the sense it does not have an effect on the real side of the economy. Okay? Now, the only effect will be a change in the price level, which is equal in size to the effect, to the change in the money supply. Why is that equal? It's not a coincidence. It has to be equal. Why? We start with an increase of 10%, say, for example, in money supply. But in the end, we get back to the original position, which means that the real money supply in the end must be the same as before we started. So the change in prices, if this was 10%, must be also 10%. So that at the end, the real money supply has not changed.
That is where the classical school of thought comes in. It is not considered
In the classical school of thought, this price adjustment takes place immediately, at lightning speed. So immediately means right away.
right away. So that means they're not considering any effects on the financial market.
There is no effect on the output There is no effect on real interest rate. So therefore, there is no effect on investment. There is no effect on consumption. There is no effect on real money supply, because the effect of nominal money supply is immediately matched by an equal effect in prices. So there is no effect on real money supply. So there is nowhere any effect on the real side of the economy. Wherever you see the word real, there is no change. The only change is in the price level. But that happens, you know, depending on the speed in the change of prices. For classicals, that speed is very fast. It happens immediately. For Keynesians, we will see, that happens much more slowly. So there is room for the economy to go to F and stay at F for some time.
My question is, when we were explaining this adjustment from E to F to H, right? You said there's also some effect, there's also a shift happening in the LM curve, right?
The LM curve,
LM curve is going back towards
back,
the
yes,
right?
exactly.
So now my question is, in the Keynesian school of thought, where you say that if prices are changing at a lightning speed.
Now that's a classical.
Sorry, the
Yeah.
classical school of thought,
Right.
So my question is that the effect on that LM curve is not happening, right? That is one.
The effect on the LM curve depends on what's happening on the real money supply. So if the increase in nominal money supply is immediately matched by an equal increase in prices,
No change in
there is no change in real money supply. And therefore, the LM curve stays there. Or if you like, it goes forth and back so fast that it's almost as if it stayed there. Okay? Now the last bit in this class is relative again to the algebra now of this ADAS model. Are we tight? Can we follow this bit? It's just a couple of slides with a couple of equations. It should not be difficult after what we did previously. So we prepared the ground for this. So this is our IS curve. Okay? Now we want to derive, this is our LM curve. We want to derive the AD curve, the equation for the AD curve. How would we do that? We have to get rid of R, because now we want a graph with prices and output. Getting rid of R. So what do we do? How do we get rid of R here?
Divided by R.
You substitute
Equate
We put both of them.
Oh, okay.
the right-hand side with this right-hand side. And then we have an equation in Y and P. That's exactly what we need, right? It's exactly our AD curve, the equation for our AD curve. This is exactly what we do here. First we equate this to this, and then we express, we take Y to the left-hand side and leave everything else on the right-hand side. So once we do that, we notice that the numerator here is just the slope, sorry, not the slope, the vertical intercept of the IS curve minus the vertical intercept of the LM curve. So anything that shifts the IS curve or the LM curve, or both, is going to also shift the AD curve. So if I tell you there is a change in money supply, LM curve shifts, you immediately know that AD curve must also have shifted, because when M changes, you see, it also affects the AD curve. And if there is a change in G, which changes alpha IS, the vertical intercept for the IS curve, it will also shift the AD curve, right? Okay. Finally, now this is the AD curve. Now we have to bring into the picture these two. The short run aggregate supply and the long run at the debt supply. Okay? So first with the short run, okay, these two. First with the short run, how do we do that? We plug in the AD equation the price level P bar. Okay, so when we do that, what we are actually doing is Y P, this is our AD. When we plug P bar, okay, this is P equal P bar, we pin down a particular Y. See, this is now one Y. Before that, we did not have P bar. For each P, we would have a different Y, depending on this equation. Wherever we put some P, we get a different Y. When we put that particular P, P bar, then we get this particular Y here. Okay? That's the short run equilibrium. For the long run, what we are doing is to have Y bar. So this is my, long run. So now we plug in the equation Y bar. That's our equation for the long run. And then we pin down our P for that particular Y bar. You see, we plug Y bar in here and we get P. Do you follow? Okay. So it's, you see, it becomes clearer once you keep open the connection between what we're doing with the algebra and what you're doing with the graphs. Then that makes it very clear. Okay? All right. So the next one is, again, the famous Night on the Black Sea. You like the Night on the Black Sea? So I'm done. We will see you on Wednesday. I'm not sure about the venue. I requested a venue change. I was told that other instructors would be asked. They all said, no, thank you, we are fine where we are. So we are still here. Today, internet was working fine. So I will not go back to RO. If they change my venue, I'll let you know. If they don't, I'll see how it works here with the Wi-Fi. And we'll continue here. But now that you know that worked, I will not, so this, even if there are more signatures here, I will use that one for tracking the text. This was also only a fallback option if that didn't work.
For inside the attendance sheet?
Yeah, but I'm saying if internet had not worked, I would be using this one. But since it worked, this has no value for me.
Okay, all right.
So you take our attendance through Kahoot, right?
Yes, that's how I will
How
do.
do you know that was
If a person took the quiz, that means that person attended for me, right? Unless, as I